This is where. 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 This is where we all get down. Down.
Okay, so this is the second part with your first sort of 15 minutes in Reason. So I'd recommend watching part 1. That's your first 15 minutes, just the basics, getting going. This is your second sort of 15 minutes, and just dive a little deeper into some of the sections we didn't have time in the last video. So this is the project that we just played around with in part 1. So let's take a deeper dive into some of the features that we've got here. So just a quick recap: we added a Dr. Octarex, we got a beat, we got a kick going, we got a couple of synths in there, showed a few ways of using the matrix pattern sequencer to get some notes in there to get started, and then we talked about creating clips on synth 2. We talked a little about naming and color coding these things, so as your SSL starts filling up here, you can easily find things and name them appropriately in there. So let's take a little look. So this is where we got to with the song. I briefly showed blocks. Again, there's a tutorial out there about blocks on the channel, so take a look at that. And we created a couple of blocks, one with no kick in and one with the kick coming in at block 1. So I just play that back as a reminder. So block 1 has no kick, and then when block 2 has no kick, when block 1 kicks in, we have the kick back. So what we're going to do is just take a little look now more into the SSL. So we had a brief look at turning on send effects here, and how we dial those things in for the given channel strips in there. We have a couple of things that can help us navigate around here. So you'll notice on each channel strip there's the ability to jump to the sequencer and where it is in the sequencer. So I can quickly find synth 2 down here if I want to draw in some more clips. I can also jump directly to the instrument inside the rack when I need to be able to do that. So let's take a look at some of the other things here. So let's take a look at this kick. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use Control L. I just want to loop on this block that's got the kick, so I'm going to do that here. So that'll just play away. So you've got the ability here for the stereo width. I can make that mono by dropping that down there. I can go left and right on this thing here. Control click on here will put that back to the center for me if I've been playing around with that. We talked briefly about muting out, soloing out here, so we just hear the particular track we're interested in. So let's talk about levels here, right? So you can hear the kick fire in there. There's a few ways you can manipulate the volume, peaking at sort of -10 there. So how can we manipulate that? So if you remember when we dropped the Octarex in here, we have a volume level here. We can manipulate that there to increase or decrease the levels. If you take a look at the top of the strip, so look at the import, if we turn that on, there is a gain knob here where we can drop the level down as well. I tend to do that there, or actually inside the rack, rather than actually the fader here. That's because if I want to use automation here, I tend to automate on the fader here. So if I want to gradually build up the volume of a particular sound, I'll automate it here. Of course you can automate it there. So what is automation? Automation's super powerful in Reason, helps you with those transitions of your sound. So let's take a look at automation on the Octarex. So if we spin out that section here, what I'm going to do is just play the loop inside the rack here for a second, and what we're going to do is just play with the filter frequency. So if I drop this down, what we're going to do is automate that sweep. So what I'm going to do is, there's a few ways you can do this in Reason. You can right click on the particular knob or slider that you're interested in and choose edit automation. As you do that, if you've got the sequencer open, you'll notice another strip comes into the transport at the bottom for filter frequency on the kick. Now, as we drew the clip in earlier for synth 2, we can just do the same in here. If I double click and stretch out here, I can actually double click on the clip then, and then manually just draw in that automation. Okay, And another interesting thing is snap. If I don't do snap, sometimes you've got to line this thing up, which can be quite difficult. If I do the snap, it'll take care of that for me. If we play this back now, you can see a green box appears around that particular part of the device, and you can see the automation kicking in there. I've got a video about that on the channel as well. Take a look at that. There's a few ways you can do that. Another cool way to do that, which I tend to do more of, is do it real time. Okay, so you can do it with a MIDI keyboard if you've got one here. I'm using the Nectar Panorama P4. You can see here it ties into the transport control. I can stop and play things here. I can do a ton of stuff on here. I don't even have to touch the keyboard and mouse. I can just control it and manipulate it all through there. So the other way to do this is you'll notice in the transport panel there's an actual record. If I hit record here, now I can put a pre-count on here, so it'll give me a 4 count before I can start recording. But what I'm going to do is I just need to clear the automation. So if you want to clear it, you can do that there. If I do edit automation again, it will pop it back in there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hit record, and I'm going to manipulate that slider real time to lay down that transition. So I'll hit record as the count. I stop that, you can see it's laying that down. If I play that back now, it's captured that, and you can hear that kicking in. So that will work as well. Of course, I'm just playing back inside the Dr. Octarex. That will work inside the track as well when everything's playing as well. So you can see that being manipulated there. So that's kind of automation, and you can automate almost everything in Reason. It's just a case of playing around with it and understanding what you can do there inside Reason with automation. So let's go back up to the SSL. So the interesting thing is I've got 2 synths. Okay, so one thing I like to do is if you use Control and click on Windows, you can multiple select these strips inside the SSL. What I tend to do is route these to a new output bus, right? So there's a reason why I do that. So again, you can drag these things around in here to make it easier. But what I might want to do here is actually call this synth or synths. I tend to colour these again just so it's easy to identify these things further down the line as these channel strips start growing in Reason. It can get a bit unwieldy when you get up to 25 plus channels. But the cool thing about that is I might want to put effects across the whole series of synths there, right? So if you remember, I'm going to mute out the kick just so we've got the synths. So you can hear them playing, and 2 will kick in near the end of this loop here, this 4-bar loop. I might want to put some reverb or the send effects on that whole thing, right? But you know, the other reason I might want to do it is I might just want to solo both synths out together. So if we put the kick back in, right, I can solo out and just listen to the synths. Now, looks like I'd taken off the clip earlier, but if I put that sound back in, so again we double click on the clip, and we'll probably bring it in at C3 here. You can see where that's firing. So again, now I'm able to just listen to synth 1. Take the A off there. Is listen to both the synths together. Might just drop that level down. So again, I can quickly go back to the rack. I can drop the level on that so it's not so intense. Again, I can just loop in on that bit while I'm listening to it, and it will play just that section while I'm auditioning these sounds. So the other good thing is in the rack, I might want to put some effects just on the synth. So let's take the Scream distortion device. So that's being applied now to both synths. Okay, right. So if I put everything back in, that is being applied to both those devices through that where I've routed that to a new output bus. So I don't want that, so I'm going to just delete the device from there. The other thing you can do is you can drag it in via the patch if you're looking at the patch, and you can press delete on the keyboard and it will take that away as well. So that's kind of a nice way you can group those things together while you're playing around with laying down your tracks with all the different sounds. So let's go back into SSL. We've taken a look at the effects part. The other thing we can do is EQing. Okay, so again, if we solo out the kick, mute out the kick, sorry, and we play these two. Back in the intro session in part 1, we looked at this window, but we didn't really do anything with it. If I select a particular synth and you've got follow selection checked, it'll follow you as you click these two particular strips. So what I might want to do here is carve out some of the low end on this particular synth number 2. So if I enable the high pass filter, I might want to cut out there to cut out all those frequencies there, say around greater than 60 maybe. I can do the low pass filter and I can cut out from the other side if I want to be able to do that. So again, I can move to synth 1 and I can do a similar thing where maybe I just want to drop off at 320, you know, drop off here say at 10. If I put the kick back in, again with the kick I might want to be doing, maybe I'm not so interested in the higher end of that, I just want the kick itself, so I can take that back. So the other good thing is as well, you can automate EQ as well. So you can't actually right click on this thing here and do create an automation lane to do that, but if you go back onto the channel strip, you can actually do this. So if we go and take a look at the EQ section up here, we have the ability, say on synth 1, to right click here. So if you look here, we're manipulating the same thing there, so the high pass. So what I can do is I can right click on this and edit it, and again it will draw me another lane down here in the sequencer. So what I can do is right across here, I can do that sort of sweep and say, so if I spread this left out again, you can hear the synth 1 starts to fade out to almost nothing. So again, EQ super powerful there. There are, apart from the Spectrum EQ, there are other effects that you can buy. There's a few that I've got over time that I tend to go to more than the Synapse GQ7's one that I can recommend. But that's kind of a quick look at that without going into too much detail. So we're going to stop this now. So if we take a look back up here, what else have we got in here? We have a master compressor, a master bus compressor that we can enable, and that just kind of glues things together as you're doing this. You can drop the threshold and see that starting to work there. But again, don't worry about that too much at the moment. Again, you've got your levels here. If you get any clipping, it will go into the red. You can reset that there. Obviously, if you're we're working on this track, we're not doing any sort of mastering, we're not at the mixing stage yet, but I tend to have mine sort of peaking around -6, so that when we do want to master this stuff and it goes off, we've got enough headroom in there for the mastering process. So coming back into Reason itself, if we go back, got a couple of minutes here, let's just go back to the devices. We talked about browsing for patches. If I didn't like the Friendly Keys patch, you can use the arrows here to change this up a little bit till you find in the sound that you like. Let's put the loop back on there so we get the kick. You can click the button in, you can browse on the left here and audition the sounds. Scrolling up and down we talked about, you can click actually inside the box there with the name and select a particular patch if you want to. If I was to manipulate this sound like I've done already by changing the decay and the release, I can actually save my own patch, and you can pop that somewhere on your machine for quick recall to be able to do that. We talked a little bit about adding multiple synths, but another great feature in here that we'll look at in the next part is the Combinator. So if you're into sound design and you want to make in your own sounds here, creating your own patches, layering things together, the Combinator is super powerful in order to be able to do that and create your own sounds, unique sounds that nobody else has probably got out there at the moment. So that's kind of it super quick while I've got a minute left. BPM, I want to increase this. I can drop this to 124 just by changing it at the bottom there, and the track will increase there. Left and right locators I can also find here just by clicking on there to find them. We had the click on, so if you're laying down this thing on the MIDI keyboard and you want the click, you can do that. The volume of the click here can be set, how loud you want that to be. You can get an idea here of the length of your song in minutes by taking a look down at the bottom here to understand how long your track is. So if you start stretching this out, you can see we're up to nearly coming up to 30 seconds there, and you'll get to know what sort of position it is to do that. There are some other things that we didn't talk about. The keys window, so if you haven't got a MIDI keyboard, you can use the keyboard to play particular sounds. So if I choose synth 1 here and I press W on the keyboard or E, you can see I'm playing those sounds. So I've got 20 seconds left. So it was a bit sporadic, that one, but that's kind of some of the basics if you're starting to use Reason. And I remember, like I say, when I first picked it up, just getting started and getting your head around a few things. There's tons of stuff on YouTube. Check out my channel, there's stuff on there as well, just to help you get going in this space. Nothing complex there, just the basics. So please subscribe if you like this video.
Yeah.